Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the official PokerStars channel. We are live once again. My name is Nicholas Walsh. I will be your host for today. It's a Wednesday, which means we are playing Spin Goes as per usual. Pocket jacks. Think we can still min-raise jacks here. That's fine. Getting action is always nice in these situations. Nice small c-bet as per usual. I think checking the turn is quite interesting because if he does have a random tray or a deuce, he might be very tempted to protect it. Yeah, I think this is what we're going to want to do here. Question is, do we shove the turn? We probably do. He can still have hands like 4-5, I suppose. 4-5 suited might be in there once in a while. Obviously, a 10 probably never folds, and that's one of our value hands. So I think one of the hands that we're targeting that where he actually has value. Well, let's go for it here. Let's see what we can do. 5-4 is one of the combinations that we are targeting there. Very nice. Little check on the turn. That serves us very well. We're going to trap with the ace-jack here. Willing to shove over the ISO, of course. That's kind of our plan here. Unfortunate flop. Really bad turn. Sorry, it's actually not a bad turn at all. Sorry, I thought he had the king of hearts for some reason. Ace of hearts was actually good for us if we were to get there. But obviously putting the chips in really good. Played our hand perfectly there. This is a pretty straightforward shove in my opinion as well. Don't want to miss that one. That seems pretty obvious. We're definitely calling a jam here. This guy seems aggressive enough to shove the correct range. King 8 is the best hand here on the flop. And on the river as well. Feels good. Polish is asking, what's easier to play? Good question. If you mean in terms of skill level, I would say that online MTTs are toughest. And then EPTs after that, and then WSOP being the softest, I think, probably. I think most people would agree with that statement as well. All right, this is a 3x ISO. Feels good. Let's do that. Obviously calling that shove all day long. I like to play with ace-10 here. I think this is good. I don't think this is a mistake. I think isolating or limp jamming ace-10 there is something that we would probably do as well. All right, here we go. Good flop for ace-9 of diamonds. There we go. First game. That was pretty smooth too, guys. We definitely got our chips in pretty nice there in under most circumstances. Polish says, is there anything specific that can tell you that the poker opponent you're playing is really good? Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to be really unbalanced against the unknown and just limp. This seems like a really good spot to be clever. 10s versus kings, we still get the money no matter what, but it's really neither here nor there. I would never do that against a reg because it's just face up what we're doing, and also it's just kind of like bad form, really. We're still trapping with 7s here, guys. 7 big blinds effective. We're still limping 7s to try and inspire him to shove hands that we dominate. For example, 6-4 of hearts. Nice little run out there. Managed to bust Auslander. That's 2 games in a row. Really, really happy to get queens all in here if we can. Whew, that's a good flop. So I think we can probably see that bluff here for like 1.3. So that's the size we use when we actually make a strong hand. I'm expecting tons of folds here against the unknown. But the unknowns also might be misplaying a lot of ace combos in this scenario. So we'll probably go 1.3 and just pray that he's actually got a piece. Might even consider slowing down when we got quads on the turn. I think slowing down is great here because we really want him to make his straight, make his clubs, give him more confidence the ace is good, give him the opportunity to represent trip queens if that's what he wants to do. I think given this action, he might turn a hand like king 10 into a bluff quite often. Ace jack in the small. We definitely want to make a note of that before we move on, but obviously a bit of a cold deck for ace jack, but that should have just gone in pre-flop anyway. Flatting ace jack in the small blind there I think is a considerable leak. So let's make a note. That was cool. Making quads is always fun. Making quads is always fun. We're going to limp king jack. If he shoves, we're going to call. Otherwise, we're going to try and play king jack suited in position. If he ISOs, we just flat. Obviously, a really juicy spot for us overall. Yeah, we're just going to call the ISO. We're not going to jam. We can double check this one as well. I'll mark this one for review, but I'm pretty confident that we always just flat here and play the really strong combo in position. Flat versus ISO heads up at 16. No, 15. We'll review that one as well in a moment, gang. We have to call again here if we're going to slow play our hand. In many cases, they're going to c-bet once and give up, and we can turn our hand into a bluff as well, which is always cool. So if we're going to bluff, I don't think we need to go big. I think this is totally fine. Obviously, he might ISO some 7x, 4x, 3x. Feels fantastic. I think the cool thing about having King Jack there as well is we're blocking King Queen, which is one of the combinations that might ISO and then bet flop and then check with a spade in their hand or something like that on the turn. Time away from the alcohol. I love the self-control. The cruise is what ruined me, honestly, Dunbar. That's actually basically it. Yeah, no, I'm not pausing because I have concerns about my alcoholism or anything like that, but that cruise was just kind of savage. Does Queen High ever win on this river, guys? Yeah, it does. Apocalypse says the best players can mix up their game to be solid, liquid, or gas, depending on what the situation needs. Love that. Spencer says, what program would you recommend for training spin and calculating equity? I do my Spin and Go training with GTO Base, which is a really cool program. I've got some more information about that on the website under tools if you want to check it out. Calculating equity, you can do that for free in Equilab, but I would say that calculating equity pre-flop it's like cool, you do it a little bit, you get the gist of it, but actually it's a lot more useful to just get really good pre-flop material where they've done a lot of that work for you, including situations other than pre-flop all-ins or all-in on the turn, all-in on the flop or something like that. If you look at some of the pre-flop material on my website, I've got all that information sort of already baked in. So the pre-flop strategy is taking into account not only pre-flop equities, but also multiple actions that you can take in different at different stack depths. I think we check again. We really want him to try and bluff. He could still have an ace, I suppose, once in a while, but I don't really see what we get too much value from apart from maybe a 9. On the river, he did actually have the 9. Does he have the hearts? No, he didn't have the hearts. Sorry, I meant to go back and mark that guy for the ace jack for review. This one is a push. Yes, this is correct. Yep. This one's bleeding edge, but that's definitely the right shove. It looks kind of gross, but when we get this shallow, anything above jack 5, I believe, is a push here. That's the one we want to mark. But yeah, Spencer, basically for pre-flop, I've done a lot of the hard work for you. If you want to get some really good pre-flop, if you want some really good pre-flop ranges, check out my website. I think I've got some incredible stuff there if you want to take a look. For post-flop, I would work with something like GTO Base or GTO Wizard. Tons and tons and tons and tons of good, very easily accessible information that you can sort of peruse to try and get the gist of how you're supposed to approach flop, turn, river. That's a really easy one to overcome mentally. Every time you run into aces, the same shit's going to happen to you and your opponents. It's really that simple. There's not really, you don't have to jump through, hula hoops to really wrap your head around that fact, because that is just true. That is just factually accurate. And therefore you shouldn't worry about it at all. It's not something that you should be concerned about. So obviously we're just going to flat and let Rufus barrel here. This is a really good spot for 8-9. He might have hands like 6-7 here once in a while, but sometimes he'll just have 9-3, 8-3, and the similar. So I think on the turn, calling again might be interesting. Okay. We're obviously calling to call the river as well, guys. Wish me luck. 6-7 would be a bummer, but there you go. We have to pay him when we're this strong against a reg. Yeah, really unfortunate turn for us there. We get really unlucky, but it's not really anything we're going to do differently. We lose the pot regardless, but you can see if in the eventuality that he does have that particular combination, we're giving him the opportunity to continue barreling it. I think if we raise his raise on the flop, I think it just becomes way too strong. We're going to get him to fold the worst hand too often. So this isn't a scenario. I think a lot of people are going to fall into this headspace like, oh, you know, Nick, that's why you got to raise the flop. You can't give him free cards because he made the 10 on the turn. We're going to crush him so often in this hand. If he's check raising with 9-10, he's going to do the same thing with like, you know, with 9-10, he's going to do the same thing with like Jack 9, Queen 9, those kind of combinations. King 9 will also be in there some of the time. So again, another unfortunate run out in that sense. But, you know, he's also going to have a bunch of hands like maybe Jack 10 even is in there. Jack 10 might be shipping river for value against what he perceives to be an 8, a 9, or a 3. It's obviously just a cold deck for us, and we just have to pay the piper against a regular. If we're playing against an unknown who just never has this kind of a strong line as a bluff on the flop, it is what it is. We can take a look at that range if you want, but I'm pretty sure that deuces and trays, 25 big blinds effective button first to act is a fold technically, but that also assumes your opponent's 3-bet aggressively, which isn't always the case. So at lower stakes, you probably get away with it. In most cases, you're always going to play threes, though. You're going to play them at, like, heads up, you're always going to play them, basically. So I'm going to make this 6. That is a pretty good flop. I think on this texture we can afford to go for 4 rather than just the quarter. In fact, we probably want to go even bigger than that because we get all the action. All the action. RIP. We're going to flat here to try and incentivize this player to shove weaker, of course. We really want this guy to shove in the big blind. Come on, give it to me. Give it to old Nick. Give it to old Nick. The tramp. The tramp. Love those games. Let's go. That was a fun one. I'll take it. I love you all very much. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.